I think the messaging around it also could be better. They always say the NFL is not for long, but they need to tell you, hey, when you go into this second career, this is going to be tough. It's going to be just as hard as it was to get here. And I think telling athletes and helping athletes understand that it's the same thing with financial literacy. Most people know to save more than they spend, but everybody always comes at it from a scarcity mindset of, well, if you don't do this, you're going to go broke. Well, if you do save this, you can actually have this type of life. I think it's more of the reframing in the communication and language around certain things. But yeah, retirement was tough, and I mean, I'm still working on the transition. I think it takes, I'm going into year 4 where I haven't played a game or I haven't been on a team, but you have to find a new team, a new locker room.
Welcome to this episode of People Are the Answer. I am so fortunate to have Super Bowl champion Bennie Fowler with me today.
Jeffrey, really appreciate you having me on. People Are the Answer. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. It was great to run into you recently and meet you at an event, and able to kind of share what I was working on, and likewise. And yeah, it seemed like you'd be a great fit for our first interview here in our Denver studio.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, and shout out to Jason and Jen for introducing us, and then the Phil Weiser event, which was a great event. I thought he was. I mean, we were just talking about speaking before we started this episode, and the way he delivered that message was incredible.
Yeah, honestly, I was impressed. I was kind of leaving it up to you if we wanted to get into the specifics of it. But yeah, I mean, I think Phil Weiser would be a great governor of Colorado. I like that there's so much extreme right now in society in terms of like the loud fringes. And I feel like he's more representative of the people in the middle.
Yeah, I think and he has a great balance to his message. He's done a lot of the work and will continue to do a lot of the work. And I think he does what he says he's going to do. And I've gotten a chance to know Phil over the last couple of years and, just had some one-on-one meetings with him. And I really believe in him and what he's going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm a huge fan as well. And he's one of those leaders that gets his hands dirty, which I can really appreciate. It's how I tend to work. If I want to figure something out, I tend to try and figure it out on the ground.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was great to meet you there. And, I like to start off a little bit with a difficult one. Life in general, what would you say motivates you?
Wow. What, that's a great question to kick off the pod. What motivates me? I would say my wife motivates me. We don't have any kids yet, but I know the fact that we want to have a family will motivate me and does motivate me. I would say my family.
Yeah.
They motivate me. My friends, they motivate me. All in different ways.
People.
Yeah. People motivate me. But, my wife and who she is, the way she carries herself motivates me a tremendous amount. And then when I see my family, my mom, dad, brothers, sisters, stepmom, my family motivates me and their support that they've given me over the years and the way they show up and who they are, they definitely motivate me.
That's awesome. It's a really good answer. I mean, I've heard, obviously I've asked this question a lot, and you get some variations of family, but just the way you described it felt like, I can feel the deep connection you have with the people you care about.
Yeah. The people who are around me, the people who have supported me from day in, day out, especially during my NFL career, now post-career, helping me transition, accepting me for who I am, challenging me to be better. That's what motivates you. And those are the people that you see on a day-to-day basis. You talk to. I was actually just talking to my brother on the way here who's getting ready to he's interviewing for some head coaching jobs because he's a college coach. Wow. And just to see his growth and him being motivated, and he's like, all right, I want to do mock interviews tonight because he's got these interviews tomorrow. That motivates me because he wants to be prepared. He wants to do well, and he wants to put himself in a position to win, and also his family.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. It sounds like motivation runs in the family and just a deep drive.
Yeah, I think a drive to be successful, a drive to use your talent to the best of your ability. I'm curious, who motivates you? I don't know if you probably shared that on the pod before.
No, it's fine. No, certainly family. I mean, my 4 grandparents are Holocaust survivors, and my dad immigrated to the U.S. as well, and I just feel always working to do their survival justice and the position that they put us in. From my parents getting married and living in a trailer to building a good company and giving my siblings and I a really great life that I'm super appreciative of, and just I try to do justice to. So certainly my family on that side, and then as well, I have a wife and two boys, and they certainly motivate me on a daily basis and make me want to make them proud. So
What motivates you just on even? I'm sorry, I'm asking questions,
no, go
but
for it.
yeah, what motivates you on the podcasting side of things? I know you like to tell stories. Yeah, but what motivates you to do this?
Yeah, I mean, people's the number one thing. Like, I've always enjoyed broadcast and media and stuff. I used to do play by play for hockey games. I listened to podcasts since before people knew what they were. But I always wanted to have some kind of entry into that space. Wasn't sure what. And then one day it just hit me that, I mean, I've been meeting some amazing people doing amazing things. Like, this seems like a great way to kind of establish my voice without making it about me. And so I just started doing this. I thought of the name, and it rang true in what you were saying in terms of people being the answer. I mean, yeah, they're the answer to your motivation. I think for me as well. And so, uh, yeah, I wanted to get my voice out there and wanted to share people that I really respect and admire what they're doing with the world, and also give those individuals an opportunity to reflect on what they've accomplished. I feel like so many people, especially like humble, motivated, driven people, rarely, if ever, take the time to sit back and say, wow, look what I've done. Look what I've accomplished. Look at the lives I've changed. Look at the impact I've created. So I also look at the episode as like, not in like a cocky way. Like it's like a gift to the guest as well, because now you have a life story on tape, and you get a second to sit and reflect. And so many of the guests have commented that like, wow, I hadn't really thought about that. Like, I hadn't sat back and thought about it like that. So yeah, I hope that I'm providing that, and that the guests can provide inspiration to others out there.
Awesome, awesome.
Yeah. Um, all right. So we've talked about your family. Obviously, a huge part of your life. Where did you grow up?
Grew up. It's kind of like a loaded answer. When I tell people when I meet them, I tell them I grew up in Bloomfield Hills. That's where my dad built a house. It was close to my mom. My parents had split up when I was younger, but I say I grew up in Bloomfield Hills. But I guess you could say a little bit in Detroit, a little bit in Farmington Hills, a little bit of Franklin, Michigan, Southfield, Michigan, Bloomfield Hills. So I would say Southfield, Michigan, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan is where I grew up. That's home for me.
Got it. Well, I feel like I've heard a lot about that area. I mean, myself being in hockey most of my life, I meet a lot of people from Michigan. My good friend Sean Shapiro, who's in the movie The Late Game with me, lives in Farmington Hills. So did you, just while I'm on hockey for a second, were you a Red Wings guy growing up? Were you into hockey at all, or no?
I wouldn't say I was a Red Wings fan growing up, but Detroit, the Red Wings, it was hockey town for a little
Yeah.
bit when I was growing up, and definitely saw the parade when I think they won in '96. I want to say
So the
Steve
Avs
Yzerman.
actually won in 96. The Red Wings won in 97,
Okay, '97.
98, 02, and 08.
Okay, geez.
Unfortunately, because
Yeah.
I'm an Avs guy.
So '97, I remember that parade. '98, my mom was working downtown Detroit at that time, so I remember the parades downtown.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say I was going to Joe Louis Arena. I've been to a couple hockey games, and I enjoy it. Now, I've probably been more Avs games than Red Wings games, even though I've only been here. I've been here for 12 years. Yeah.
So what was it like growing up in Michigan? What got you into football?
Yeah. What was it like growing up in Michigan? I would say that it was super unique. You don't realize it until you actually become an adult, what it was like to actually grow up. You don't notice. I mean, you travel a little bit. You travel a little bit for sports and spring breaks, and your parents take you on vacations and different things like that. But you're never really paying attention to what the real differences are, because you're not really exploring the city by yourself. You're not, immersed in cultures. But what I will say about Detroit is that it's a blue collar state, and it's a hard working state. And that's what my parents displayed on a day in and day out basis. Mom and dad going to work, providing for my siblings, and, giving us an incredible life. So growing up in Detroit, to me, was awesome. I didn't grow up in the heart of Detroit, or like what people see. People, when they think about Detroit, they think about 8 Mile. Yeah. That's not where I lived. The guy that he actually makes fun of, Cranbrook, that's a private school. So I went down the street. I went to school down the street from Cranbrook. I went to Country Day, which is another private school. But life was great. You get to meet incredible people. You don't really realize, what type of, environment it is. But yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, I think I relate to that just in terms of when you're growing up somewhere, until you go elsewhere, you have no idea like how your upbringing was different from others or wasn't. And I grew up in Charleston, South Carolina, so I can imagine that.
Yeah, when I think about the way I grew up, yeah, it was super unique to in terms of the friends that I had and how they grew up. My dad was well off and made a lot of money, so it was very different than some of the friends that I had, for AAU basketball or track or whatever it may be. So I knew that was different. But other than that, friends being friends, playing sports and traveling, AAU, track, basketball, football, we were immersed a lot in sports. Detroit's a sports town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it's clear that throughout your life, it seems like giving back has been a part of your life, and that you seem to have good perspective on life in general. And I'm sure your parents were a big motivator for that. And I'm just curious, like, are there any specific experiences during your childhood where that made you learn about giving back or made you want to incorporate that, or was it just natural?
I think my parents they were an example of that, whether it was giving back to family and setting that example of, these are your siblings or these are the people that are close to you, you need to give back, or if they do need help, you help them out. The schools that I went to placed a big emphasis on community service, whether it was Immaculate Heart of Mary, Grosse Pointe Academy, or Country Day. Those are the three schools that I went to. All those schools had a program of giving back, whether it was community service, soup kitchens during Thanksgiving, during Christmas. At Country Day, you are required every year in high school to do 10 hours of community service. It's required because, I mean, what it costs to go to Country Day is what it costs to go to a college. So I think those teachers, the faculty understand the importance of giving back, and our parents are paying a lot of money for us to get a great education and a very specialized education in sports, but you also need to give back.
So, do you remember some of the things you did in high school for your volunteer hours?
Whew, let me see. Meals on Wheels. Yeah. So Meals on Wheels, that's, you deliver meals to senior citizens. Let's see, what else did I do? Volunteer at the Boys and Girls Club, kids camps.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's crazy how stuff just like drifts off, even when it is super impactful. Like I'm trying to remember when I was in high school, what I was doing. It was like I know I went to like some soup kitchens, and I was a teen line counselor. So like you call into like whatever the number was, I don't remember, and it was for teens, and like so we got to train with the people that were on like the adult hotline, but like if you were a certain age, you came to this one during these hours. So like however often, once or twice a week after school.
Have you always been big in terms of community service and giving back?
I think similar situation. Just my parents set the model. It was just helping the community, helping people, getting involved is just what they always showed us growing up. So um, it felt natural, I guess. I just remember specifically on that teen line thing. Like I just remember when they came to my school to tell us like that it was an option. Um, my dad had done some of the hotline stuff before, so just immediately I was like, "Oh yeah, I want to try that. I want to help people." So I don't know.
Yeah. And you continue today.
Yeah, I don't do that specifically, but I definitely am involved in a lot of nonprofit
Well,
organizations.
we got Breakthrough in common. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've done
yeah,
Breakthrough.
yeah. Breakthrough's amazing, and I've had Jason on the pod. I've had Stacy from Breakthrough on here as well. And yeah, I mean, I have done a lot of things in criminal justice reform, and I just think Breakthrough is an incredible program for people incarcerated, people coming out of incarceration.
Why criminal justice reform for you?
It started when I was in the cannabis industry. I've been involved in it for a long time, but I quickly saw all of these atrocities of the war on drugs that I hadn't, I'd kind of been privileged not to know a ton about, and just was really disgusted by it that you put me on drug policy, and then drug policy will quickly take you into the criminal justice system, and just seeing the mess that is. And I think some of it's like, as a Jew whose family's been through the Holocaust, like just when I'm seeing people that are being targeted and being treated unfairly, it just like really hits home for me. And so I can just kind of imagine myself in those shoes. And there's so many people that are incarcerated for drug reasons that shouldn't be, shouldn't be behind bars, that don't deserve to be, whose lives get ruined by something so tiny or something that shouldn't have mattered or shouldn't have been a lot. So just, yeah, I mean, it really galvanized me and just got involved in a lot of different ways. So
Yeah, your perspective is important, and it's an important one to share because people like you or me who have been privileged to, sometimes you just don't see that, you will kind of ignore it.
yeah,
And organizations like Breakthrough, and seeing those types of, or seeing the impact that Breakthrough will have, but then also when you find out, people are wrongly convicted, or a small amount of marijuana, which is now legal, it's ridiculous how long these people are.
there's still people in jail for like joint sized amounts of cannabis, like Alabama and places like that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so yeah, that certainly galvanized me in that respect, and it's just giving back's been part of my life, and I'm curious. We talked a little bit about high school, Country Day. How did you end up at Michigan State, and what was that process like?
The process was unique because I didn't go to high school wanting to be a football player at all. I wanted to be a basketball player. Kobe Bryant, the late great Kobe Bryant, was my favorite player. That's who I wanted to be like. I had all the shoes from Adidas to Nike. That's who I wanted to be like. And then Country Day is a basketball high school. So Chris Webber went there, Shane Battier went there. So there's a lot of pedigree in terms of basketball. So some of my buddies that I played travel ball AAU with before high school went to Country Day. And then Country Day is, like the top program, and they're selling out games. And you got Dale Brundage, Alex Legion, Daryl Nobles. Like, these are people that I knew. And it's like, I want to go there and play. So that's the reason why I wanted to go to Country Day. Shifting that to football, we are a huge basketball school, but we had incredible football players like Jonas Gray and Kenny Dimon. So Jonas Gray was top 5 running back in the country. He's a year older than me, went to Notre Dame. Kenny Dimmons went to Michigan, that school down the road. I don't like saying their name, but he went to Michigan, and there was an opportunity there. My mom was actually the one that really encouraged me. So Jonas and Kenny are like recruiting me to come out there, play on the football team, because I was fast. I could run the 100. We were state champions in track, and hey, come use your speed out here. So they're calling me, and then I'm telling my mom, and she's like, you need to go out there and go. And like, how many moms are really out there encouraging their kids to go out there and get hit? And I mean, hit hard.
Yeah.
But my mom was right. And sometimes you just need those types of people in your corner. And then my dad also encouraged me. My dad knew I had gifts at a very young age, and we would always run the hills together. So my parents really encouraged me to go out there. And of course, the first year I go out there, I get hurt. I break my collarbone. Never broken a bone in my life, and I break my collarbone. So I'm pissed. It's like, now this is going to mess me up and set me back for basketball season. But I stuck with it. And then I got my first offer during track season that next season. After I ran the 100, Eastern Michigan offered me a scholarship. It's like, all right, now I know I'm going to school for free. That's great. And then now it was like, now focus, like, well, I could actually get recruited by bigger schools. So I went to camps that whole summer, went to Toledo, got an offer, went to Indiana, got an offer. And then I ran a 40 at Michigan State, and then caught some passes. And then Coach D'Antonio offered me a scholarship actually when I was on the way to Michigan for a visit.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't like the way my Michigan visit went, so I committed to Michigan State the next weekend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. It's like now it's history.
Oh, it's the best. I mean, it was the best decision I ever made. And up until the class before me, or after me, we were the winningest senior class in Michigan State history. So, my redshirt freshman year, we won 10 games, won the Big Ten championship. My second year, we won 11 games. Then we went 7-6, and then we won 13 games. So, really averaging out, winning 11 games every year in college, 2 Big Ten championships, 1 Rose Bowl, the 100th Rose Bowl. Everything we set out to do as a class, as freshmen, we actually got a chance to do. So it was incredible.
That must be really rewarding.
Very rewarding, because, I mean, you don't know how things are going to go. When you go to Michigan State, when I went to Michigan State, I was thinking about going to the pros. I wasn't actually thinking about the time that I was going to have, but the relationships that I developed over that time are relationships that I have to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask that actually. Like, were you aware about the amazing thing that was happening while it was going on or not? You know, it's kind of like I feel like I've had some of those experiences. You look back on it, it's like, oh man, I didn't know I was having the time of my life.
What was that? What were some of those for you?
I mean, well, one where I did know it at the time was making the movie The Late Game, my hockey movie. That was just the time of my life for sure. But like, I mean, just look back on college. Like, I was not fortunate to play a sport, but I was a huge fan of D1 hockey, and we won the national championship while I was in school. You know, BU hadn't won it in, like 14, 15
That's
years at
got to
that
be
point.
insane.
So yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing, and just like yeah, lots of things like that, like national championship or in college, or like when my wife and I first got married a long time ago when we were really young. Like we had some amazing times, and I think some of the time you don't realize, like when you're going through certain periods of life, that like, hey, you're gonna look back on this period fondly, even if you think X, Y, and Z is not going right.
When I'm curious to see or just hear your perspective. When I think back to some of those times, it makes me a little sad because life continues to move on and you don't get a chance to reflect, or you actually can't go back and live that moment. You have the memories, but when I think about the Michigan State days, they are just some of the best times of my life. But no one's going to stop and tell you, hey, like this is going to be some of the most incredible times. And if you do live life like that, I feel like you won't actually experience what you're supposed to experience.
I
Because
think it went down the way it did, and we wouldn't think about it the way we did if we did have different perspective at the time,
yeah, I
probably.
think
And
two Big Ten championships, it was incredible. But like it was lightning in a bottle. The way we were winning games, like the fake field goal against Notre Dame, the Hail Mary against Wisconsin, playing in the Rose Bowl, playing against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship. Like these are all
a lot of
things.
thrills.
Yeah, like these are like all movie type of moments. But then also the basketball team. I had two Final Fours as as a fan of the basketball
Yeah,
team, and the hockey team was doing well. It was insane.
yeah.
You know, and I just think I've been lucky. I won two state championships in high school, and then the championship teams I was on at Michigan State, and then I won the Super Bowl.
So you caught Peyton Manning's last pass ever. Like, what a really cool place to have in history.
Yeah. I mean, when I think about that and talking about the universe coming together and things coming together and just being in the right place at the right time, picking Denver, I mean, and having that happen, we get the number one seed my first 2 years. We go on this Super Bowl run. The first pass I ever caught from Peyton was in Detroit.
Oh wow.
So when you think about that, my last high school game was at Ford Field. We end up losing the state championship. That doesn't matter. My first ever college catch was at Ford Field, Michigan State versus Florida Atlantic. And then my first ever pro catch, Sunday Night Football, Peyton Manning calls the wrong play. It's supposed to be alley to X, which was to Demarius, but he called alley to F. And he says, I think that's to you. And I was like, yeah, it is. And he throws me a ball, first down, 4 catches for 50 yards, back at home, my first couple catches in the league. And then fast forward to the end of that year where he's in the huddle and he says, hey, he calls a play and, hey, I'm coming to you because of the coverage that we were going to get. And I catch his last pass. I mean, I just, I mean, when I think about it now, it's just crazy that all of that happens and all of that, serendipity.
Yeah, I mean the Ford Field thing, especially, like that can't be likely.
No, not at all. I mean, not for everything, especially, me going to Denver, maybe the last high school game, and then in college, maybe, but for that to
Maybe
happen
if
in
you
the
played
first,
for the Lions or something like
exactly. So, yeah,
that's really cool, and it's amazing you got to have that experience. I mean, you played for I know you played for the Broncos, and then you played for the Giants, the Saints, and the 49ers.
yeah.
And I mean, it seems like Denver was the most impactful experience. You've stayed here after your career. What was it about Denver?
Well, Denver's just an incredible city, as you know, and I think as a lot of people are starting to find out, and a lot of people found out post COVID how incredible this city is. It's a very unique ecosystem where you have this incredible business ecosystem. You can't screw anybody over in Denver. It's just too small of a city, and people will find out. Your reputation goes a very long way in this city. Also, when I watched Peyton retire, somebody who can live anywhere in the world, and he chose to stay here and raise his family here, that just that turned on the light bulb. And then a lot of former players are back here or live here. If you've played, I would say over 2 or 3 years here in Colorado, a lot of players either stay or move back just because of the ecosystem. You can be yourself. It's a very outdoors city, state in terms of the skiing, the hiking, just wanting to be outside. And then obviously most sunny days in America. Yeah.
And the media is not crazy harsh here, I feel like, compared to some of the other sports
Oh
markets.
no.
So
When I was living in New York, it was brutal. And yeah, being in New York or being in New Orleans, where it is live and die everything that team. It's totally different. But the media is a little bit harsh here because we were in that Super Bowl window where you had to win a lot, and so
yeah, I mean, sports media will always be that way, but yeah, Denver over New York for sure.
yeah, 100%.
Well, it's really. I'm very fortunate that you chose to come back to Denver.
What made you stay?
Oh, well, let's see. My wife and I moved here in 2016. She had a bunch of close friends here. She went to the University of Kansas with, and um, we love it here. It's beautiful. I mean, I grew up in the Southeast in the humidity, and so no humidity is by far my favorite
No mosquitoes.
thing. Yeah, oh my, like every time I go back to Charleston and there's bugs, I'm like, what is going on? So yeah, I mean, the weather is certainly part of it, and it's just tend to meet nice, genuine people here. It seems like a good place with good values for our kids to grow up in, and I feel a little more free than I feel like some of the other states kind of are right now in some ways. So yeah, it's a great spot.
Can't beat it.
Yeah, awesome. Well, yeah, Denver should call us up and have us do a tour on why people should come here if they need that. So
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to take them to different spots. And
So, oftentimes for athletes, retirement can be tough because it changes everything. It changes your routines. It changes, something that you've been doing your whole life, really. And so, what brought you to that spot, and then what was it like at first when like you weren't doing team stuff all the time?
yeah, retirement is definitely tough. I think 78% of NFL players go broke or divorced within 3 years of their career. And that is because the ups and downs. You have to re-identify yourself. You have to do a lot of work just because you've been playing a team sport and you've been playing sports your entire life. So it's not easy at all. I think the messaging around it also could be better. They always say the NFL is not for long, but they need to tell you, hey, when you go into this second career, this is going to be tough. It's going to be just as hard as it was to get here. And I think telling athletes and helping athletes understand that, it's the same thing with financial literacy. Most people know to save more than they spend, but everybody always comes at it from a scarcity mindset of, well, if you don't do this, you're going to go broke. Well, if you do save this, you can actually have this type of life. I think it's more of the reframing in the communication and language around certain things. But yeah, retirement was tough, and I mean, I'm still working on the transition. I think it takes, I'm going into year 4 where I haven't played a game or I haven't been on a team, but you have to find a new team, a new locker room.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like you've gotten clear perspective on what the game brought you,
Yeah,
right?
for
So
sure.
that's really incredible. And you mentioned sort of the financial literacy aspect. Like, are you or were you involved in the Players Association? Is that something they're working on with players? Like, is that improving for players coming to the league?
I think it's improved a lot. There's actually a group that my buddy Julius Thomas, who I played here with, really good friend of mine. He left the NFL, went and got his PhD in clinical psychology. So he's helping players tremendously because his message is always going to resonate because he played. He played at the highest level. He was a Pro Bowler, all pro, signed the second contract, and then went back to school. And then has shown, and he is a real life example of that. So he along with some other folks have created this thing called the pro athlete community, which is like a locker room. So they get together five or six times a year, and they bring people to talk about investments, real estate, to talk about transforming their identity, talk about scheduling, talk about how to set up your day. So I think there are a lot of tools out there now. It still has to be better. Sometimes people don't want to be in the group. They want one-to-one conversations. I always felt like the financial literacy thing, if somebody had a question, they wouldn't ask, just like in school, because they're like, I don't want to raise my hand and keep us here longer, because they always want to do the financial literacy meeting after a long day of practice. It's like, come on, like
And it's very specific to individuals, especially at that level, I think. So
100%.
yeah, I can appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Not everybody's making the same amount of money, and not everybody, it's like, oh, he raised his hand, and then you have everybody else like, come on,
Yeah,
like, we don't want to stay here any longer. Yeah.
yeah, I totally get that. And I saw that you also wrote a book while during your career. Is that right?
Yeah. Last couple years of my career. Yeah.
Awesome. So, Silver Spoon: The Imperfect Guide to Success. Can you tell me about the inspiration for that and what that experience was like?
It was a tough experience. The reason why I wanted to do it is because I love reading books, Think and Grow Rich, Outwitting the Devil, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I love personal development books, books to expand your mind, bring in different ways of thinking. So I wanted to write my book, a little bit of my personal story, the way I grew up. Everybody thinks because you grew up privileged, or you have your parents in your life, or you go to private school, that everything's super easy, and of course you made it to the NFL. It's like, no, like that is not the reason why I'm here. The distractions can be just as difficult as somebody growing up in the inner city. They're just different,
Yeah.
you know. So I wanted to explain that, but then also have some of my teammates share their stories and how they grew up. And the principles of success, regardless of where you grow up, are very similar in terms of hard work, discipline, believing in yourself, your spirituality. So I wanted to share that, and I wanted to tell a little bit about my parents and my brother and sisters. So that's why I wrote it. So Silver Spoon, everybody's, oh, you got a silver spoon because of how you grew up. Well, I use that as a title. Um, so yeah, that was the reason why I wrote it. And I also wanted to write it because to show that I was more than an athlete. My buddy Ryan Harris, I don't know if you know Ryan, who lives here, but he's a speaker. He said this is now your new business card. So yeah, the NFL thing will get you in a lot of doors, but also that might keep you in some more doors. So that will open up other doors that you didn't know or you didn't think about.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm excited to check it out. I mean, it's vulnerable to write a book. You mentioned you talk about family. It sounds like it gets personal.
Yeah, I wouldn't say too personal, but yeah, I think sharing stories of tough times and times that I've been benched, tough times in my playing career, and tough times where you don't know how things are going to really work out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, that's amazing that you're an author. Do you have any other writing plans in the future?
Yeah, I definitely want to write a book just of the quarterbacks that I played with. Also, just the importance of leadership and communication. So, Who's Catching Passes from You will be the next book, because I caught passes from Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, Kirk Cousins. But Who's Catching Passes from You is also about communication. Like, you're receiving a message from me, I'm also receiving a message from you. So, how are you communicating the leadership? How are you communicating, the message that you want to get across? Is the next one.
That's awesome. I'm excited for that for you.
I appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And
You got a
so
book? Are you gonna write one?
I have not written a book. I mean, I've written a lot of things. I'm probably gonna write a movie before I write a book, but we'll see. We did a couple episodes of the podcast where Kait, my producer, interviewed me, and that was a lot for me. So at some point, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna feel it out. So after you were done playing, you mentioned sort of that transition of retirement and how that can be. I saw you had a few different roles as that started. Like, what did you get into? How did that evolve? And where has it taken you?
Yeah, I did. At first, I was just doing my own thing. So I went and got certified in executive and leadership coaching, life coaching, because I had an incredible conversation with a coach by the name of JP Flom, who lives here in Denver. We had an incredible conversation, and the way that he was able to open up my mind and see different perspectives of life, and just that conversation and the way he shifted and the way he motivated me, I was like, these are the types of conversations I want to have. And this is how I want to push people forward. So I wanted to start a course. I wanted to design this uh, speaking program, and I wanted to do all that. I didn't listen to the right advice because they tell you, hey, who's your target market? Who's your audience? And I was like, everybody wants to set goals. And they're like, that doesn't work. Yeah. So I spent a lot of money on that. And that helped me shift to what I really want to focus on, which is more of the speaking. The coaching is what I love. I love the fact that, it teaches you to ask questions and not point people in a direction like, oh, hey, you need to do this. It's like, no, people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. They can find the answers, help them find the answers. So I enjoy those types of questions. I enjoy that sometime. But speaking, different networking events, I love meeting people and figuring out what they're trying to accomplish and achieve. And then how can I play connector? So joined a law firm and did that. And then now I'm at CapRock, really getting a chance to work with high performers and people who are exiting companies. And these are people who have made a ton of money. And then how do you become a part of their team, not only to help them keep it, but steward it forward for their family philanthropically. And then also, I think, everybody needs a team. And so that's what we act as CapRock.
If you're enjoying this episode, I would greatly appreciate if you could review, like, comment, or subscribe on your favorite platforms. Your engaged support goes a long way in helping the show grow and getting our impactful guests heard. Now back to the show. Yeah, that's really fascinating. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You're helping others further their impact in their careers, and sounds like a great spot for you. And what is it? How has that transition been? Like, have you been in touch with other players over this period? I'm sure that like are going through a similar transition. Is it something that are you really comfortable with right now, or like is it something you're constantly working on?
I would say I'm definitely working on it. It's definitely not as heavy as it was a couple years ago. I definitely know who I am now and how I will continue to evolve. I definitely help a lot of players in just in conversation, or I will go speak at like the pro athlete community or to different teams. I spoke to the 49ers. I might be doing some speaking with the Broncos just because I am an example of that.
Yeah.
So it's always good to share those stories because when they look at me, it's like, oh no, I've already sat in these shoes. So
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, it's got to be most impactful for those guys to hear from a peer, somebody that's been through it.
yeah, been through it, and very different. Most of the people in that room will be late round draft picks or undrafted. Yeah. So I can speak to that as well in terms of making the team, the stress, the uncertainty, and then how to navigate that.
And I'm sure, you mentioned networking and making connections for people. I'm sure that like you get to meet then a new sort of generation of players when you go out and do this, and you're probably looking to help them move forward, help make some connections for them.
Yeah, if they're trying to expand into different verticals or arenas that they want to learn from, I actually just did that. One of my buddies, we didn't play on the same team together, but I think, yeah, 5-6 years older than him, and we trained together down here at Landau, and he wants to get more into real estate. It's like, well, I have plenty of real estate connections. Happy to connect you there and let him go explore and see what he really wants to do and have those types of conversations.
Yeah. I mean, that's a powerful resource for people, and I really appreciate that you're a connector that sees that people are the answer as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you mentioned the speaking and the coaching. That sounds really incredible. I have down that you speak on resilience, performance, culture, teamwork, leadership, lots of awesome things.
All football stuff. I mean, everything that I learned from football, but then the conversations that I've had with my parents. My mom worked at a big law firm and then started her own small firm. So being an entrepreneur, what does it take? Everything is on you as an entrepreneur. So it's a lot of uncertainty. It's a lot about mindset. It's a lot about the vision. And then, you have to be consistent every single day as an entrepreneur. This running businesses and being around the business world. When you're an entrepreneur, whatever you put out, that's what you're getting back. Yeah. So, and then, 100%. Yeah, my dad being in the C-suite at Ford and C-suite at Jaguar and Land Rover, you learn a tremendous amount about leading people and delegating certain things, but there is a standard, and there's a standard that everybody has to answer to, including yourself, and then giving people the authority to fail and not making them feel shameful for messing something up, but actually bringing them along. Those are the types of conversations that my dad and I have that I thoroughly enjoy because, he was during 0809, not 0809, but I guess it would be 0506, Jaguar and Land Rover losing $250 million a year. And in 18 months, $750 million profit just by tweaks and communication and leadership and structure. And I really enjoy those types of conversations.
Sounds like your dad's a really incredible resource to have.
He is. Because, I can't imagine the amount of pressure during that time for him, for Ford. But, going over to London and living over in London for 4 years 3.5 years is not easy to do. Yeah. And it's sacrifice, but changed our family's trajectory forever.
Yeah, well, that's really incredible. So we talked, about childhood, about college. Are there any particular times in any period of your life where like you really saw how you were impacting change, or someone came up to you and said, your talk led me to do X and change my life? Like, have you had those kind of moments yet?
Not the change my life conversation or testimonial, but I was actually just given a keynote at the Michigan Roads Commission in Lansing 2 weeks ago. And I was talking about uncertainty and how to deal with that, the levels of communication, transparent communication, builds trust, authentic communication, creates clarity, and just talking through that. And, I think sports and business and what sports can teach you, especially football, it's such a microcosm of life. So
Yeah.
I think a lot of people take a lot of those little small things away from the talks that I give, and they leave me great testimonials.
And I bet I'm confident there are many people that have been at your conversations, at your talks, who have had tremendous impact on their life, whether you've heard from them or not. I imagine there's people who changed the way they live that day that were inspired by you. So,
I hope so. I mean, that's what you do it for.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And um, I like to ask people about mentors in their life. It sounds like your parents have been big mentors to you overall. Is there anyone else that has been really impactful for you in that front?
Hmm. Yes. I would say I don't necessarily know who my mentors were in college. Like I had great conversations with our strength coaches because you spend the most time with them. I wouldn't call them mentors. I wasn't just calling them to talk about everything. I'm getting different perspectives all over in college. When I got to the pros, I definitely had mentors. Julius Thomas, who I mentioned earlier, was definitely a mentor. He was somebody that he liked to read on the plane. So did I. He saw the way I went about my business every single day. He just knew I was serious, and he challenged me to come out there and get better as a receiver and train with him in the offseason, and I did. So I got to really spend and learn how to be a pro in the offseason with him. And then Demaryius Thomas, the late great Demaryius Thomas, I was like his shadow for 4 years. Everything he did, from sometimes the way we both went vegan together for a couple months. We trained together, same trainers, same physical therapists. Well, actually, I was just taking all his stuff because he had already modeled it. It was like I had already seen it done and done well at a high level. So him, Emmanuel Sanders, who's still here to this day, and living in Colorado, we would work on certain things every day after practice. And then on Tuesdays, we would, Mondays and Tuesdays, we would go into the building and catch passes, hundreds of passes. And yeah, those were my mentors coming into the league.
Yeah, I mean that's so fortunate to have that, and then I'm sure you provided similar things for players younger than you.
Yeah, I didn't know that. When I reconnect with players now and I talk to them now, and they're like, "Man, you used to do this every day," and I would like, "Wow, I didn't
You
know
don't
you were picking.
realize.
I didn't know you were picking up on that."
Yeah.
But the way my diet or my supplement routine or whoever, they're like, "Oh yeah, man, like I used to watch you do that all the time." There was one of John Jalapio. He's offensive lineman here in Denver, and my second year, yeah, after sprints, I would always sit in the lunchroom and have a Coke. And he was like, "Man, I remember you every day. You used to beat everybody in sprints, and then you go have a Coke after after practice." I was like, how'd you pick up on that? But yeah, that's what I did. How about you? Your mentors?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes like people are picking up on things you don't realize it, especially in that where you're sort of like more senior to people as at least in an age group and in an organization like that. Yeah, for me, I mean, I would say definitely my parents. Um, Overall, I mean, I've had a lot of like you, I think create a lot of different relationships, done a lot of networking. I mean, I'd say in more recent history, my buddy Ross Kahn, who's has been mentoring me in film production, that's been really helpful. Our mutual friend Jason Mendelson.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call him a formal mentor, but definitely has that. He has that kind of impact on me for sure.
Post career, I've had great mentors. I got a group of guys that I check in with. I wouldn't call Jason necessarily a mentor, but I get great advice from him on just how to approach things. Sean Stigler was a great one. Ron Suber, incredible guy. I'm trying to think of who else. Charles Johnson, who's here, who was a former CU quarterback, won the national championship here. Ray Jackson, he's the head of player development and engagement for the Broncos. Like those are just great people to have conversations with. I appreciate mentorship, and yeah, it's awesome.
And speaking of the Broncos, it sounds like you still are pretty engaged. I know you're doing some podcast work as well.
Yeah.
How do you stay involved in that?
Yeah, I think just showing up. I think the Broncos have plenty of opportunities throughout the season and in the off season to engage in the community. Food Bank of the Rockies is something I do. Boys and Girls Club is somewhere I spend some time with just the Broncos. We've done some book fairs. We've done some financial literacy things. So I'm always trying to stay engaged in the community through the Broncos because that's where I started my career. So they always have those opportunities, and then there's opportunities to talk about the game, really educate people on the game, and just give them an inside look in terms of what it's like to be a pro and what it's like to play for this team in this city.
So, people that might be listening and interested, where can they go to hear you talk about the Broncos?
They can go to the DNVR Broncos podcast. That's where they can find me. Yeah.
Yeah, and All City, that organization, I'm a big fan of. And Sean Shapiro, who I mentioned earlier in the pod, he works with them in a few different spots, and I've heard great things about them.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. Going to be doing it once or twice a week, and then also doing it during the season, which I'm excited about, and hopefully expanding the media career. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to see where that goes for you. I think the media aspect is really interesting to see what some former athletes have done with it. And like some of them have created even bigger careers for themselves in the media world than they ever had in athletics. So,
I mean, yeah, Michael Strahan's on Good Morning America. Yeah. Nate Burleson, I think he's doing also a Good Morning show. Obviously, Peyton, what he's doing. Tom Brady's on Fox. I mean, Tom Brady's career, he will make more from his Fox contract than he did playing. It's wild.
Especially for a name like that, right?
Yeah, for somebody, I mean, less in half the time. So you think of, everybody, what they're doing in the NBA and these different player podcasts. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, like in hockey, there's the Spit and Chicklets podcast that's big, and Paul Bissonnette's kind of that Biz Nasty, as he's known, as kind of that guy that has transcended, his okay career to now having this huge media career. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think, what the media does is that it puts everybody on a level playing field. Just because you are, I'll use Tom Brady as an example. Just because you are Tom Brady doesn't mean that you're better at explaining the game. Not saying that Tom is bad, sure. But just because you played a long time doesn't mean you can explain it well on TV. And there are people who didn't have the greatest career who can take you and tell the story and go really in depth in terms of the game and helping people understand it. Tony Romo, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think he had a good career, but the way he is as a broadcaster and taking you inside the huddle as a quarterback, second to none.
Yeah, 1,000%. And I think that that's a thing, whether it's like people who know a subject aren't necessarily good teachers, the same way that like Wayne Gretzky would admit he wasn't the best coach, just because he sees the game totally differently. And I think it was kind of hard to translate and frustrating for him at times. He's talked about. So it's cool to see like the people that do kind of are able to translate that into communication.
Yeah, for sure. Love to see it.
So aside from family, we've talked a lot about family. Aside from that, if everything were to end tomorrow, whatever that means to you, what are you most proud of or most grateful for?
I'm most grateful for the people that I've surrounded myself with. I'm most proud of the fact that I have faced challenges, not crazy hard challenges, but I have faced challenges to become a pro, and I've overcome them all. Being undrafted is hard to make it in the NFL. Then being undrafted and winning a Super Bowl is even harder. The luck and serendipity of catching Peyton Manning's last pass and then playing 2 years with his brother and then playing with Drew Brees. I'm excited about the fact that every year I had to made the team, and 7 out of 8 years I made the team. Yeah. I'm proud of that. And then I'm proud of the fact that I wrote a book and the way I've transitioned. I'm proud that I can go into rooms and I don't have to mention anything about my NFL career. Yeah. People might ask about it if they hear my name, or they're going to ask if I played sports because I'm still in shape. But I don't have to say or lead with that at all. Yeah. So I'm proud of that.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, there's probably not a ton of pro athletes that are as confident saying that.
Yeah, I feel really good about it.
Awesome. So the big question that I like to ask everybody toward the end of an episode is this. If you could snap your fingers and fix one thing in the world, what would it be, and how do you think that change would reverberate?
If I could change one thing.
With the snap of a fingers, it just happens.
I would want to have people to have open minds. Yeah. And when I say that, it's regardless if you're a Democrat or Republican, white or black, we can have conversations without hating each other. It's like, geez, everybody is just super extreme sometimes. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Yeah, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Now, you can't have a conversation without, telling somebody that they're completely wrong or that they're an idiot or, they don't want to listen to the other side. So I would want people to be able to steel man any argument or anything that they disagree with. Okay, you don't disagree with why? Okay, I understand that. Now sit in my shoes and explain it to me why you can see it from my side.
Would certainly be a better world if more people could do that, right? Because it's refreshing when you find people that do want to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's so few and far between now. There's so much like tribalism in our culture.
Yeah. What's yours?
What's my
Yeah,
what's my snap my fingers? Yeah. Oh geez, I know. I think Kait asked me this on my episode, and I don't remember what I said at the time. But I'd probably similar. I think just like if I could if let's say we're in a video game and I could increase the compassion level for general humanity a little bit, like up the knob or whatever, I think that would go a really long way. Just giving people the ability to put themselves in other people's shoes, and it's easy to say in concept, but like in theory, to really like mentally try to put yourself where somebody else is can be tough. But I think just having a little more empathy for everyone would go such a long way in our world.
Yeah. Even if you can't, even if it is tough, it definitely will change your mind. You definitely won't be as reactive. You'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah. I don't agree, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing, is like we're so quick to like, you envision people, the keyboard warriors at home, like the second they see the wrong word, they're like, just going at it with all of their excitement, and then not even hearing the rest of what someone else was saying.
100%.
So it's really important to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's been amazing having you here. I'm really excited to stay in touch and to, read your book and to watch you in the media, see your career evolve. How can people listening best support you and your impact?
I would say just reach out to me, or, follow me on LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it may be. That's where I am. I share content on there. Reach out if they want to have a conversation, because I'm open to having those conversations, if they're listening through this. And I would say that's it. And I really appreciate you having me on. People are the answer.
Thanks for checking out this episode of People Are the Answer. For more information, go to peoplearetheanswer.com. Please like, subscribe, rate, whatever you can do on various platforms. We really appreciate the support. And if you're interested, check out my other podcast, The Late Game Podcast. You can learn more at thelategame.com. Thanks.